so that it can be a getaway weekend. So especially when they're leaving, it's talking about a lot about their benefits and how they can take care of their family while they're gone. So a lot of it is about communication and keeping in touch. Then when they come back, we have reintegration seminars, and now we're talking about getting the family back together, because what things have changed since they've been gone. So change is a topic that we all have to live with, and we have to find ways to embrace it. But one of the things that I leave out of my introductions all the time, because I like to say it myself, is that the title that I'm most proud of behind my name is Uncle. Uncle Sporty. I have 33 maternal nieces and nephews. Oh, come on, don't be impressed. I didn't put in the work. Right? But I always say I put in the work now, because my nieces and nephews need a good uncle, as we all do. And so that's why I brought along one of my nieces. This is Susie. Susie is a military kid that I met when I started doing the Yellow Ribbon program. And I think she's got a great message for us all, especially in this time and on this day and this week. We all smile in the same language. See, sometimes we forget that. You know, Teresa said, hadn't heard of a humor professional. There's an organization I'm a member of called AATH, which is the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, and they have a certification, a 3-year certification program to become a certified humor professional. And I also did a 2-year certification program to become a certified stress mastery educator through the American Institute of Stress with Dr. Heidi Hanna. So it really is, and those two really commingle, because laughter is a part of a stress release that we need to have. And life is a part of the real stress relief we need to have. But Susie's message, again, reminds us of just how important it is for us to try to see ourselves as try to make the thing, boom, as masters of change. How many of you consider yourself a master of change, really like change? So, okay, not everybody. Okay, how many of you like a good challenge? Most people like a good challenge. What if I told you that change is just challenge with an LLE in the middle? Mm-hmm. And seeing that LLE is life's learning experiences. What experiences can you learn from change? Think about what you've really gone through in your life. Think about what you're going through right now. See, a lot of people call it the new normal, but I've been calling it the now normal since I've been on the contract with the Department of Defense. Because that's constantly what they're talking about, the new normal. And I tell my service members, I said, recognize that you won't be coming back to the way things are or the way things were. You'll be coming home to the way things are going to be with new tools of resiliency and experience. So it's not about the new normal. When's the new normal coming? What's it going to be like? It's here. And so it's the now normal. Now, what are you going to do with your situation? And that's why it's important for us to take care of people like Susie. But what are some life experiences that you're going through right now? See, it's also about recognizing how we have to reframe things. You're not stuck at home with the kids. You're safe at home with the kids. You're not bored at home. You're on board with making sure that we're staying at home so that we can be safe and not give the virus a new host to carry along, because we're still learning what it's going to be about. So it really becomes incumbent upon us to really get a hold of our minds and find the calm in our spirit that really cares about other people. Because a lot of times, especially in a networking organization, what can I do to help you with your business? You know what I tell them? Take care of yourself. That's how you can help me. Take care of yourself. Because once you take care of me, you'll find ways to once you take care of you, you'll find ways to take care of me. Because you'll be a valuable resource. Those are the life experiences. So think about the things that you're going through right now. And then you want to ask yourself, which of those things are you celebrating while you're going through it? Which ones of them are you going to keep? Because some of the things we won't be able to say, okay, well, oh good, we're back outside now, that's the end of that. A lot of people, especially in the first few months, we're going to still be bumping elbows. How many people came in today and said, hey, how you doing? Right, it's muscle memory. We're used to shaking hands. And you heard that joke, when people used to call for sleep, they say, bless you. Now they call and say, get away from me. All right? So, there are a lot of things. Are you going to keep those things, you know? And what have you been doing that's actually prepared you for, as the Bible says, such a time as this? Because the thing is, this is coming. It's just a storm that we have never recognized before. We've been through storms. It's just that now it's global. See, it's easy. It was always easy for us to say, this is going on in my neighborhood, in my city, in my state, across the country. Now it's across the world. And so that's where some of the pressure that we've accepted comes on. I have a friend of mine's mother I called. I said, how you doing, Mama? And she said, oh, I'm stuck in the house. She's like 87. And I'm stuck in the house. I said, well, where did you go before? You've been on medication that you have to take 3 times a day. We have a home attendant that comes in to exercise you. She said, you weren't going anywhere. She's adopting somebody else's pain. Everybody's saying, I'm stuck in the house. And so she's deciding, I'm stuck in the house. She was already relegated. This room is bigger than the space that we allowed her to go outside into her front yard. So it really is, we've been through storms before. It's just a different type of storm. But let me tell you a little bit more about Susie before we move on. Because one of the things I always remind my military families of, let the school system know that you have a parent who's deployed. Because a lot of times our school systems are not ready for our military kids. Military kids mature faster than our civilian kids. In fact, there's a story I like to tell about a 4th grade teacher who's talking to her class about mammals. And she said, though the whale is the largest mammal on the face of the earth, his throat is actually so small it can't swallow a human being. Well, Susie, the military kid, said, oh, teacher, that's not true. A whale can swallow a human being. Teacher said, oh my God, these military kids, they're so outspoken. But I can't let it take over my class. Look, Susie, thanks for participating, but a whale actually cannot swallow a human being. Susie said, well, a whale swallowed Jonah. Teacher said, good answer. They're creative too. I can't let this girl take over my class. Look, Susie, I'm really glad that you're participating because everybody learns differently. And you could be helping one of your classmates right now with your questions and input. So thank you. But the truth is, the whale is the largest mammal on the face of the earth. Its throat is actually so small it cannot swallow a human being. And there's no proof that a whale did swallow Jonah. The class got silent. Susie said, well, I guess I'll just have to ask Jonah when he gets to heaven. And the class said, yeah, the class give it go, Susie, right? And the teacher said, oh my God, I'm gonna have to shut this kid down. Oh, she's trying to take over my kid. I'm the boss here. She said, well, Susie, what if Jonah went to hell? The class got quiet. Susie didn't blink. She said, then you ask him. And so it begs the question, what conversation are you having with Susie? That's why she's my co-star today. She's going to help us walk through some of the things that we need to think about. Susie, give us a GA. Everybody's telling Susie that they want to go back to normal. But what is normal? As an adjective, normal is it's conforming to standards, the actual, right? Typical. As a noun, it's the usual, the average, or the typical way of looking at things. But as a matter of fact, this is what it is today. All of this negativity, obnoxiousness, racism, misery, anger, lies. This is what it is. But what we want to do, we can't see, these are not going away. None of this normal is going away. But what we can do is not let it be head of household and make sure that we let it go into this type of normal. Let this be the now normal. And even as you go down to work, do you want me to go back so you can take that picture? Yeah. All right. When technology works, it works. I had this clicker die on me, all right? So I'm impressed. Ready for the next one? Bam! All right, so this is where we want to get to this. This is what's going on right now. And even when I was putting this together, a couple of weeks ago, like you said, Chris, if we stayed in the virtual thing a couple of weeks ago, that A would have stood for Afro, right? Because, but I've been able to get a haircut. I actually went and bought myself clippers, and this is my first haircut that I just did last week. So I'm saying, good, that would be much more appropriate than using Afro. And we can go with amen. And amen is important because it's a message that everyone needs. See, we need a message right now that says it's going to be okay. And we need a message like Susie said, everyone smiles in the same language. Because we need a message that reminds us of who we really are. Because that's what happens sometimes. We just lose sight of who we are based on inheriting somebody else's pain. And then we need to have love. Let ourselves value everyone. Everyone is important right now. It's just now that we're getting to see that. We're now getting a chance to label someone as essential workers, when in fact they've been essential all along. And think about letting ourselves value everyone in terms of also some of the relationships that we've had in our life. Remember, life's learning experiences. Even the knuckleheads in your life, the relationships that didn't work out, they were valuable because they helped you make a choice. You know what? I don't want to be with this fool. Let me go another way. You know, and as they were walking away, ooh, I didn't want to be with that fool. Now, you never know. But everyone has been valuable. The people who bullied me when I was younger, they've been valuable because they helped me learn how to take a stand. They helped me move into writing poetry to deal with that because I didn't journal. So, you know, all of these things, you know, if you really stop and think about it, you can find that there's been nothing but blessings. But you have to decide that that's what it is. So everybody has to be valued. And one of the things that catches us up is everybody's caught whether you have to be right or wrong. This is no time for fighting and frustrating over who's right or wrong. It's who's being heard that's important and who's willing to listen. The number one communication skill is listening. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as hard as you speak so that when you speak you will have substance. And who says that the opposite of right has to be wrong? Because sometimes the opposite of right is left. Communication, 90% of our communication is nonverbal. Only 7% of the words. 38% is our tone. 55% is how we look. And if you're old enough to go back when we were Billy Crystals, you look marvelous, okay? All right, don't be dropping things when I'm talking. I'll drop the mic, but don't drop the phone. All right? But you know, see, think about it. If we were to say right, people might say wrong, but somebody else heard left. See, because it's right, and opposite of right is left. And we don't even have to have let left be aside. We can recognize that it's let's encourage free thinking. Because that's what change is about. It's taking the time to listen to somebody else's perspective. Let me take a quick poll. How many of you, I gotta tell you, I'm an uncle. How many of you are uncles? You got any uncles in the house? Okay, what about aunts? We got any aunts? Okay, what about parents? We got parents in the house? How about people born in large cities? Okay, how about small cities, small towns? All right, East Coast, West Coast, okay? You know, you see what I'm saying here? These are all the different perspectives that we're looking at the same topic through with different eyes. All of us are going through this together, differently. And so depending on which one of those categories you fall into or you label yourself, because you self-label when you raise your hand, that's what you see the world through. And that's why I do say that uncle is my #1 title. Because I don't have kids, so I'm looking at my legacy being my nieces and nephews. And I make sure when I hear people say, these damn kids of today are related to the damn kids of yesterday. All right? And I said, my nieces and nephews aren't in that pack because I got them in check. We're working together. I'm letting them be heard. And that becomes the key. Did it take a virus for you to sit and talk with your kids, with your nieces and nephews, with your grandkids? And I'm not slapping your wrist. If that's what it took, hey, whatever it takes, did you do it? See, did you take the opportunity? What will you be keeping from this experience? And so you start to think about those things and it helps you stay positive. And yeah, we can all just encourage free thinking. There's another way of looking at things. And so one of the things I always say is you have to control your vocabulary rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you. I say to you that what we can do is use what I call my 5 fundamental F's to have a better life. And the reason I use the 5 fundamental F's because, spoiler alert, all my F's are positive. See, I think F gets a bad rap. We automatically associate it with failure. But my F's are positive. They're focus, faith, fun, friends, and freedom. These are the 5 fundamental things that we need to lead a better life. We're only going to be able to cover the first 2 in our short time. But those two are the base of what makes the other three work. So the first one is focus. F-O-C-U-S, finding ourselves creates unlimited success. See, everybody, I want you to put you first. Not your kids, not your spouse, not your parents, not your pet. Put you first. Because see, once you take care of you, you can take care of everybody else. And once you put you first, you can also, because there's two people you can't take care of. You can't take care of anybody until you take care of yourself, and you can't take care of anybody who doesn't want your help. So if we make sure that we take care of ourselves, we take care of our families, PMS, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Because that's what we want to do, is make sure that we're able. If you've got an ailing parent or friend, if you haven't taken care of yourself physically, you can't lift them to help them out. See, so, you know, a lot of times, well, that's just being selfish. No, it's selfish. Take care of you. Wear your mask. Social distance. Thank God that we're in here today, because everybody in here has been responsible enough and trusting enough to come. Even when I was getting a speaking engagement, I said to people, I said, you know what, I trust the organization and the establishment that the right precautions have been taken. And so I'm okay. But y'all pray for me anyway. All right? But this picture, the reason I chose this picture, and if you're ever doing presentations, try to get some pictures in there. So important to have pictures in your slides rather than just words, because you got the people who are visual learners and they need to see pictures. Reach everybody. I throw tips in there as well, okay? But reach everybody. The reason I have this is I just finished competing in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. Every year they have a contest called the World Championship of Public Speaking. To win, you have to win at your club, area, division, district, semifinals, and finals. Now, this, I was in the district finals, and the title of my speech was The Greatest. So that's why I got a picture of Tony. And the tagline in my speech was, greatness is about being who you are. You will always and only be successful when you choose to be yourself. That's the focus that you have to have. So even as I was focusing on winning the World Championship, and the World Championship was going to be in August in Paris. So as I started getting ready for it, I put a picture of Paris on. Okay. Good thing I have my slides. One of the things that is so important is recognizing that winning is personal. What I need. See, if we were to go to the videotape, we'd say, I just finished competing. In other words, the district is as far as I got. And I won third place in the district. But, you know, now the conference championship was going to be in Paris live. So before I got there, I made sure that I was focused on what I needed to do. What was a personal win for me? You notice I said I won third place. I didn't say I lost, because I never see myself as a loser. Losing is a state of mind where we surrender to the fact that we have other options. But a personal win, I won third out of 11 speakers. And my message got delivered. That was what's important. In your businesses, sometimes you don't get every client that you go after, but your message gets delivered. Sometimes we get turned down by a client because it just doesn't work for them right now. It's not that they don't like our service, but they don't need it right now, but they like us. And so they say, you know what? They tell somebody else, I just met this person. I couldn't use them, but maybe you could. If you see in the upper right-hand corner of my slides, it says how I feel affects other people. And I call that the top line, because we get caught up in the bottom line in terms of business, but you can't get to the bottom line in your business if you don't deal with the top line, and that's people and the relationships we have. So don't let yourself get down about the business that you didn't get. Recognize that wasn't for me, but it opened up another door. Maybe even something that I did, I laughed with Gary, right? Earlier we were talking, and he gave me his card. I said, oh my God, I don't have my business cards with me. Rusty from not being out. Okay? See, so now I say, oh man, Gary thinks I'm a jerk because I don't have a business card. No, I don't have my card. But guess what now? Between me and Gary, the burden of contact is on me. See, there's always a positive way of looking at it. And so, oh, well, he didn't give me my card. He's really got a card. He just didn't want to give it. See, we go into all of this. Yeah, that negativity bias. We go all of this stuff, beating ourselves down when we just don't know the situation. Okay, so that becomes the key. So since the conference was going to be in Paris, as I was getting ready for it, I put myself in Paris. Now, because of social distance, you can't comfortably see me, but I'm right there next to the guy with the hat that's selling the things that I read about that I wanted to buy when I got back to Paris, in the paper that I saw described on the seat in the airport. So if you look real close, you'll see it. But that's the key. The key. How do you see yourself? See, I had to see myself as a champion in order for me to compete to be called the world champion. And then the truth is, even had I won the world championship, the #1 title behind my name would still be uncle. So once you decide once you really see who you are, focus on you and let other people come into focus. Once you start doing things, you'll see who's on your side, who's there to help you and who's there to hurt you. And if we focus on the problem, we miss the easy solution. That's why I tell a lot of people right now, let's focus on the solutions. That's why we're not worried about, no, I'm not stuck, I'm safe. See, that's why changing the vocabulary can be helpful. It's focusing on the solution. Right now, a scientist or a doctor is working on the solution. And you know one of the first things they had to do? They had to focus on themselves and get the negative people out of their environment. They can't afford to be around people who say, oh man, that's not going to work. Oh, no, they need somebody, when this doesn't work, they need somebody to say, I think you just put a little bit, maybe if you put a little bit more. See, they need someone with positive reinforcement. So we can be comfortable knowing that we've got our best out there trying to figure this thing out. And now this is where the worldwide part of it becomes an advantage. We've got the best minds in the world, literally, trying to come up with the antidote. This is not one continent bragging that we got the best in the world. Everybody right now, all the best, are working at it. So do your part. Just do your part and get out the way. And then be positive while we're waiting. Because that's something that we can hold on to. So one of the things you do as you're in the house quarantined with your family, as you get to know your family, this becomes the key. And that is that you have to observe before commenting. Because how many times have we decided what somebody's doing instead of listening to what's going on in that situation? We decide we make the wrong assumption about their action instead of making the right assessment about all we have control over, which is ourselves. In fact, I was doing this session called, using my 5 F's, I call it How to Get an F in Reintegration. I was talking with a Navy Reserve group in Kansas a couple of years ago. And what I did is I gave each table an F. So each table, there were about 30 tables, 300 people, and I split up my 5 F's, so one table had focus, faith, fun, friend, and freedom. And I said, okay, tell me why that F is important to your reintegration. And I gave them 10 minutes. And to talk about it. And so I walked around. As I'm walking around, I come up behind one of the airmen. She didn't see me. And I looked over her shoulder, and she had written on hers, fart. And the table was probably like, ooh, it was one of those, the teacher caught you moments, right? So, the teacher caught you, not paying attention. But I also bet that there was somebody sitting there saying, okay, Mr. Positivity, now what you going to do? You just caught her not taking you seriously, and she wrote fart. What are you going to do? And I said, oh yeah, fart. Okay, fully able to retract our thoughts. I said, because we have to remember that sometimes the things that we say need to be pulled back, because so many of the things, if we would just slow down and think about what we said, we'd find that we were being judgmental and we really didn't know what the situation was. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Observe before you comment. And then so they laughed at, and I couldn't super quote what I said because I was in the moment and I rocked it too. Okay? And they loved it. We cracked up laughing and I walked on. But here's where the blessing comes in. As it turns out, the meeting planner called me afterwards and told me that airman had been brought back from her deployment in Afghanistan after just 5 months because her fiance stateside took his life by suicide. And she thanked me for engaging her. She said this is the most interactive that she'd been since she'd been back. And so she thanked me. I never saw the woman again. The blessing gets better. As it turned out, that airman's last name was Farb, F-A-R-B. And she was at the focus table, focus on you, and let other people come into focus. Her nickname with her group was Fart. So she was totally engaged in the exercise. How often do we as parents, teachers, supervisors, think that someone is not paying attention based on the way we want them to pay attention? And then we criticize or slap their hands. This is one of the things that could be going on in the household. See, observe before you comment. Because the blessing always gets better. And what we have to do is recognize that sometimes, you know, there's that quote again, how often have we taken, what is it, the wrong assumption about somebody else's action, we can only make the assessment of ours. But sometimes you just have to fight. That's really the key. So just sit back and control your spirit and take your time. And realize that children mimic and mirror adults. If you follow those arrows on the t-shirt, if it's too far back, his says Mr. Fix It and hers says Miss Broke It. The guy on the right, his says the original and the kid says the remix. And then in the middle, he's a slice of pizza and he's got the whole pie. And we're going to let the pizza, cold pizza is good for you. Hang in there. All right? But children mimic and mirror adults. Again, what conversation are you having with the Susies of your life? Are you being transparent, as we like to call it? One of the things that we did with my family, we had Family Faces Fridays. And so we did our first one on April 17th. And we had, from my age, 64, down to my 8-year-old great nephew. And we had 14 of us. I said, let's start out by everybody telling me something that you thought would go wrong based on the virus, and then tell me how it ended up going well. And we went around the room and everybody liked to go first. I wanted one of my nieces and nephews to go first because I figured they're young and they don't want to have to go after the older people and try to live up to what they said. But my sister, who's a year younger, she said, no, I'll go first. I said, okay, well, it worked out perfectly. Because what she ended up doing, she recently moved. In October, she moved from New York down to South Carolina. She's in Lancaster. And she talked about how she was so afraid of being stir crazy. And instead, she found out that she got a lot of paperwork done and a lot of things done that she hadn't planned on. She was really happy at how things were organized. The beauty of that thing was that by her saying that she, admitting her fear, she gave everyone permission to say that I was afraid. And that's what helped my younger nieces and nephews and her daughter. You know, not that everybody jumped up and started, you know, talking about how, they were scared to touch the door. But everybody now knew that it was okay. Have you given your kids permission to really talk about how they feel? Because if you don't, they'll get it from somebody else. And then we'll call it peer pressure. And then we'll say that they're stupid. And then we just keep the cycle going of maybe what our parents did, or maybe what we saw. And that's why I like to give a shout out to parents. Hardest job in the world, right? 40 pages. You see the Perfect Parent Manual? 40 pages, all blank. Because there are no rules to being a parent. You do the best you can. Flip that thing over and you got the Perfect Child manuscript. 40 pages, all blank. No rules to being a kid. How many of you have multiple children? And you know you could not raise the second one the way you experimented on the first one. We tried. Right? Okay? So these are the life lessons that we already have. And we put them on the back burner to give something that we have no control over front line. That's what we have to remember. Everyone smiles in the same language. This is just a new story. So be conscious of what you say to your kids. And so here's Susie. And she wants to show us how the new and the now has to work together. See, we got this thing where suddenly the nurses and the essential workers, these people weren't the scum of the earth. They were already essential people in somebody's life. How many of you know nurses, people in retail, customer service? These are people who have a heart for other people. They don't even care about getting a whole lot of thanks and acknowledgement. They just want to be there to help. So they've been essential for a lot longer than we've decided to give them on social media and in the news headlines. And that's what we have to focus on. Because there's a lot of the now stuff, there's a lot of news. The news isn't new, it's old. You don't have to watch the news. My pastor, Stephen Furtick at Elevation, and I heard him say, I don't watch the news, I keep up with the news. So limit your access to your input of news, intake. And I'm not saying you don't watch it at all, but if you've been watching it for 2 hours, you've been getting drummed with negativity for 2 hours. Cut it down to 45 minutes, cut it down to 30. But find a way, because you have to make sure that you're dealing with what's going on now. And here's one of the now things that's happening. You know how when you see somebody text you like that, what is that doing? They're screaming, right? A friend of mine, I gave a webinar, and he sent me an email saying, I registered. I said, yeah, I saw it. You screamed at me when you did it. And then he got back, he said, I didn't scream. I was excited for you, and I was cheering you on. And that's where his capital letters were, in his name. And I said, oh, okay, that's how we're doing it. Then I misread another one. This friend of mine, Clara, sent me to today. Senior Talk with Clara will celebrate 9 years Chicago with seniors, people getting better with age in the Sporty King. And then I rolled back, I said, well, change my email address and turn me into a mister instead of a miss. And she came back laughing, she said, no, she's saying we miss you, Sporty King. It's the context of the sentence. So I reminded myself of another thing that I remind you, slow down. Slow down. The sender and the receiver have to slow down and take in the full message. There's no sarcasm buttons in email. So a lot of times the negativity is you, not the person that's sent it. Focus on you and let other people come into focus, because we have to get back to the way this kid is. It may not be today or tomorrow, but everything's going to be all right. Where did he learn that from? He learned it from us. Children mimic and mirror adults. So we have to have that mindset, feeling as if there's hope. Have that faith that it's going to be okay. Because the only thing you cannot do is give up. And you haven't given up, not just because you're here and you're keeping your business going, you're still believing in yourself, but recognize that you have done things, that you have been through storms that no one else has been through. There's something you haven't told someone about what's going on in your life. But there's somebody you haven't told and given credit for what you're going through in your life, and that's you. Give yourself credit and recognize that we always want to make it happen. Finish this sentence for me. When one door closes,
another one opens.
Got the Sporty King remix for you. When one door closes, go for the windows. Go for the windows, because there's usually more windows than there are doors. And see, right now there's a lot of cliches going on in our lives that we need to let go so that we can move forward. One time I said that, and this guy, he screamed out, it locks. Because that's what life is about also. It's a one-time deal. It's not dress rehearsal. So let's make sure that we focus on ourselves, have the faith, so that when the door is locked, we're on the right side of the door that locks. And then I remember hearing an Air Force chaplain say that the real message behind, the moral behind the story of the 3 little pigs is not what type of a house you built, but the fact that the storm was coming. And after that storm, there's going to be another one. So how many storms have you been through? Give yourself credit, okay? And then we could let this stand for TGIF, that girl is fine. Perspective. Thank God it's Friday. But what good does Friday have to the person who took their last breath on Thursday? It's slowing down and thinking about it. So I use TGIT, thank God it's today, and then TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Because the blessing to wake up, go through the whole day, and get a chance to go to sleep and do it over again tomorrow, I'm being thankful. And so that's why, again, when we put the new and the now together, we have to make sure that we get the negative words out of our vocabulary right now. Because they're knocking people down, and they're powerful. I had a friend who sent me an inbox message. He said, how are you dealing with this BS? And I wrote her back and I said, my BS is blessing stale. I'm giving my new blessings, and I'm keeping the ones from the past. See, so it's turning that negative into a positive. So again, as you think about what we talked about today, what have you learned through focusing on yourself and having that faith? What things are you going to keep in your now normal? What traditions, new traditions have you made with your families? Because you've made some good ones. So go on and give yourself credit, because we have to recognize that we are masters of change, because we are masters of challenge. And if we don't admit that we're masters of change, then we become maskers of change. And you know it, they've already got the Trikini mask out. So be really careful about what you do, what you say, and know how important you are to everybody else. Thank you.
Sporty, thank you so much.
Elbow. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sporty. Appreciate it.